We're back on the Sports Zone. I am Mike Aglialoro. We took a few days off on the Sports Zone for Memorial Day weekend, but we are back, and we're going to start off with a look at the New York Mets. I was going to do a New York Mets report on today, May 26th anyway, but then Jose Valverde blew yet another save. He's been mediocre, and today was by far his worst outing of the season, and after the game, he was summarily released. And the Mets finally took some action. They fired their hitting coach, Dave Hudgens, who, of course, has been their hitting coach for the last 4 years. And you know the futility of the Mets offense over that time. So it's high time he finally got out, and they finally decided to try to make some change there. Now, obviously, a hitting coach is more vanity than anything else. It's highly debatable what a hitting coach actually brings to a team's offense. I mean, guys get to the major leagues knowing how to hit. As Mike Francesa says all the time, you can't teach someone how to hit. So how much help the hitting instructor really is, who knows? He's been replaced by the Mets minor league hitting coordinator, Lamar Johnson, who's been with the organization longer than Sandy Alderson. And we'll see over the coming weeks whether or not that actually has an effect on the Mets offense. But I'll tell you what, in my eyes, would have an effect on the Mets offense. It seems like Terry Collins has been loyal to a fault with certain players, whether it's Ruben Tejada or someone like Chris Young, who hasn't been with the Mets for a long time. Obviously, he just signed this season, but is a veteran player. Bobby Abreu, who was signed on a minor league contract and is now part of the outfield equation, has been getting playing time because he is a veteran player. And it just seems to me that Terry Collins seems loyal to the veterans to a fault. A guy like Ruben Tejada should be much more interchangeable in that lineup than he really has been over the last month. And the Mets are 7-17 over the last month. They lost 8 of their first 9 in the month of May after ending April 15-11. Got off to a terrible start, had a decent run in the middle of the month when they, of course, won the first 2 games of the Subway Series at Yankee Stadium. And then Dylan G went on the disabled list. Should have been a good time because Rafael Montero and Jacob deGrom, 2 of the Mets prospects, were finally promoted. And, you know, it would have been great. Montero took Henry Mejia's start in the rotation, and deGrom was supposed to start out in the bullpen. But with Dylan G going on the disabled list, deGrom's been placed in the rotation. He's actually been better than a lot of people thought he was going to be. Both Montero and deGrom have been hard luck losers due to the ineptitude of the bullpen, especially over the last couple of days. Montero pitched 6 innings yesterday, 1 run balled. deGrom 6 2/3, 1 run allowed today. So you're wasting very good performances from 2 guys who are now being counted on to play large roles in the Mets rotation. Bartolo Colon and Zach Wheeler still have not been very good, especially over the month of May. Their struggles have continued. So with Montero and deGrom, John Neese has proven to be one of the anchors of this staff. He's been solid over the last month, continuing his run from the month of April. He had 1 bad start a couple weeks ago, but other than that, he's basically been the stalwart of the staff. If I got to pick 3 areas that need to improve for this not to be another long, meaningless season of Met baseball, the bullpen obviously has to pitch a lot better. Now, it's nice to see Henry Mejia adapting to his role. It does look like he's going to be the new closer for the foreseeable future. 3 saves over the last week, only 1 unearned run allowed through 7 innings thus far. And he's looked good. They're reluctant in terms of how many games in a row they want to pitch him because obviously they don't want to re-injure his elbow that has already undergone Tommy John surgery. Jose Valverde was released after his latest blow-up Monday against the Pittsburgh Pirates, which I'm very happy to see happen. Just like Kyle Farnsworth, I don't think this is going to affect the Mets negatively in the least. Vic Black was recalled. He was supposed to be counted on largely out of spring training, but he lost his control. Looked decent in Las Vegas, still giving up too many walks, but for right now, the Mets are content to let him try to come up, see what he can do. And if he can get going, Jeurys Familia has been a bright spot in the Met bullpen. Those are 3 arms right there, which is 3 more than they had reliable at the beginning of the season. And if they can count on Familia and Black to pitch the 7th and 8th and maybe give Mejia a day off occasionally, you got something in that bullpen. Josh Edgin, the left-hander, hasn't looked bad since he's come back off of injury. He hasn't looked great either, but he's been a lot better than he was last season. Daisuke Matsuzaka, who pitched as a spot starter in the second game of the doubleheader on Sunday, has actually looked pretty good over the first couple months of the season so far. And if they can count on him, as much as Jose Valverde and Kyle Farnsworth were the veterans that kind of floundered, Matsuzaka's pitched a lot better than both of them, and he's actually seemed to thrive in whatever role the Mets wind up putting him in. So if they can count on him, there's another solid arm, and he's at least earned trust from some Met fans. We don't cringe every time we see him anymore. He's earned that. The next guys I think you got to get rid of in that bullpen are Scott Rice, the left-hander, and Carlos Torres, the right-hander. Torres looked pretty good as a swingman last year. He doesn't this year, and Scott Rice has never looked that good. They only keep him because they really don't have any left-handers in their system. The only left-hander they have at AAA Las Vegas is Dana Evelyn, former big league starter with the Oakland A's and Los Angeles Dodgers. So we'll see if anything happens there. These guys got to pitch a lot better over the next month, though. The other two areas that got to improve, obviously the offense. Like we said, Terry Collins has been too reliant on guys like Ruben Tejada and Chris Young and even Bobby Abreu. This has to stop. You have to give the chance to a guy like Wilmer Flores. Now, he hasn't looked great in only 35 at-bats through the first month, but that's because they only play him every other day, basically. He finally got 2 starts in a row between Sunday's Game 2 and Monday's game against the Pirates. That has to continue, though, because Ruben Tejada is still not even hitting 200 on the season, and he has over 100 at-bats, whereas Wilmer Flores is barely hitting 260, yes, in 35 at-bats. It's time for that to change. These poor excuses are part of the reason why a guy like Juan Lagares wasn't starting until about a week ago. Terry, your team isn't doing much. You have to try some things that are a little outside the box. And if the Mets as a franchise are going to build themselves as a team for the future with the prospects, we need to start seeing them this year. Wilmer Flores still counts as a prospect. Get him in the starting lineup and keep him there. And finally, the last thing, I got to see Bartolo Colon and Zach Wheeler pitch a lot better than they have over the first 2 months of the season. Colon, you're giving $10 million a year to, and he's supposed to be the reliable one, the innings eater. He still has an ERA over 5. Zach Wheeler is allowing way too many base runners. Both of them have a batting average against of over 275. This isn't good, folks. Those were the two guys you expected a lot of this season. You knew what Nice was going to do. You were expecting a lot from Dylan G as well. Colon was supposed to be your guaranteed 200-inning guy with decent numbers who was going to be able to keep you in a game. You know the team can't hit. He's not being able to keep you in games so far. And the same thing with Zach Wheeler. I'm not saying you demote Zach Wheeler like Travis d'Arnaud, who should be back later in the week after his concussion. You have to let the young guys play. Now is the time. Guys like d'Arnaud and Wheeler, they're not going to get anything if you send them down. You have to keep them in the major leagues and let them work out their problems. But Wheeler has to show you something soon, because it's been far too long since he has. So that's going to do it for the Met report. Again, Jose Valverde is finally gone from the Met roster, and they let go of Dave Hudgens after 4 uneventful years as the Met hitting coach. About time for a change. We'll see if it actually does anything. Check out everything else we got on the Sports Zone. Other articles from guys like Jake Dixon, Aaron Hadasme, Tom Lembo, Dave Tice, Jay Rovsky, and George Murphy. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at WeAreSportsZone. Send us any questions and comments you may have. Thanks, everyone, for watching. For This is SportsZone, I am Mike Aglialoro. We will see you next time, folks.